Hello, I'm MPX Toycat, and earlier this week we saw our first version of the Caves and Cliffs update featuring goats and powdered snow, but something a lot of people aren't too aware of is the goat horn. This is the unique item you get when a goat knocks into a tree, a brand new way of getting items, and when you use it, it does, well, this. So, needless to say, it's an entirely unique item in Minecraft. It makes the horn that you get when a village raid plays, but the question is the, goat actually a worthwhile mob, even with this goat horn? And I think the answer is, it's not too compelling just yet. Sure, they're a cute mob that we'll be excited for now, but just like many other Minecraft mobs, it might end up on the list of mobs we care slightly less about, and that's why in today's video, I wanted to talk about a better solution for this, because Mojang is very community-driven. They have been looking at feedback from this update, and so today I wanted to talk about how we as a community can stop the goat becoming just a mountain panda or a mountain polar bear, because that's all they're shaping up to be right now, just another useless passive mob, something I would like to not happen, and here are my ideas for how. So first of all, I guess we should justify, why does every mob in Minecraft need a purpose? And, the answer is, technically speaking, you don't need it to be true, but something that the core Minecraft team has always wanted to do is make Minecraft full of actual features. I mean, sure, you could have a bunch of mobs for the sake of ambiance or whatever, but that's something you can download right now. You can download 100 or 200 or 300 different mobs to your Minecraft, and they won't do very much, because being able to extend Minecraft is great, but the features that exist in the base game should at least be worthwhile, and that is why, having just a mob that exists to roll around and be cute, or having a mob that exists just so that you can theoretically get its horn and make a noise, it's not good enough, and we should probably expect better. So let's look at like 3 successful Minecraft mobs, that have been added in Minecraft time past, because it's easy to get nostalgia goggles when cows are the first mob that you see, and when obviously they're more powerful, more useful, and spawn more frequently than other mobs. But let's look at mobs that have been added since the release of the game, and let's see how they were useful despite being added to the game as passive mobs. So we're going to look at the horse, we're going to look at the rabbit, and we're going to look at the turtle, because they're 3 entirely different cases of how this same thing was actually worthwhile. So we're going to look first at the horse, because it's a great example of a mob that also doesn't drop something when you kill it. They've said very explicitly of the goat that they don't want to encourage you to kill the goats for their horns, because they don't want to encourage, the ivory trade, and they want to be seen as against it. You can see how they explicitly said in this quote right here that they're fine with people killing animals, but they're not fine with people hunting animals for their specific parts, because they think it's immoral. And although we could have a whole debate about the ethics of that in Minecraft, let's say we also have to be an ethical way to do this, and the horse is a great example. You never need to kill horses. In fact, killing horses is usually a bad idea. They only drop leather, and even then, less of it than you'll get from a hoglin or than you'll get from a an actual cow, the main source of leather. So instead, use horses as a mount. I don't even need to tell you because of how worthwhile they are, but just in case you somehow have never heard of horses, they allow you to get around Minecraft at a speed usually faster than walking, and also they will use no hunger to do so. They also have a jump that can be a lot higher than the players, so they're basically a utility mob to get around Minecraft. And then there's the donkey, a variant of the horse, which obviously allows you to store a lot of items while doing that exact same thing in exchange for losing some of the speed. So it satisfies players who want more storage, it satisfies players who want to get around faster and easier, and in general it does a wonderful job of being worthwhile even all of these years later. It's actually the oldest of the mobs we're looking at right here, even though it feels like it was added just like surely a couple of years ago. No, horses being added to Minecraft was July 2013 now. Kind of fun to look back at. But basically, the horse is a great example of a passive mob that people still want to use all these years later. And you know what another great example of a mob is? I think the rabbit. The rabbit is perhaps the first of the useless batch in that in some ways it's not too worthwhile, but when it was the only close to useless mob, it actually had a lot more value, because rabbits come in lots of different colors, so therefore they allow you to tame them and keep them as a pet if you really want to. It's a little tricky to do, but I've managed to do it at my end, so if I can do it there, you can do it anywhere, I reckon. So anyway, the rabbit is a mob that you can keep as a pet. You can even name it Toast if you want the exclusive little design, but it's also a mob that when you kill it will give you some rabbit meat. It's not very useful meat, but at least it's something unique. It will give you some rabbit leather, which again is not very useful. It just turns into leather at a very bad exchange rate. Not very useful also. And then sometimes the rabbit fur. So by giving you 3 different drops, 2 of which aren't so useful, but at least if it's the only mob around are kind of worthwhile, and then a third of which you need if you want to craft a type of potion, actually made the rabbit something that you actively will sometimes need to hunt. Admittedly, jump boost is not the most worthwhile potion in the game, but the fact that there is a mob that you need to find find if you want to make it. Kind of adds to the survival nature of Minecraft, that you're a survivalist who has to go out and hunt rabbits specifically to make this potion. It's really great, it's really fun, and although someone can make an argument that like killing rabbits for their feet is immoral, and I totally agree, you shouldn't kill rabbits just for their feet. You shouldn't kill rabbits in general, they're cute. But most people don't look at Minecraft and go, I need to do that in the real world, so I think the rabbit is the best worst mob because at least it gives you a potion, and therefore there's always going to be some need for it to exist in your world, and some benefit if you kill it and get the rabbit foot and you think, what's this for? It seems kind of potiony, and again, it adds to that adventure experience, which is also important. The third passive mob we can look at right here is going to be the turtle, which just randomly drops some scutes. This is perhaps the most comparable because the goat, knocking into a tree, it's not something you can control too much. So the turtle drops scutes, and those scutes can be used to make a turtle helmet, which gives you kind of like an enchantment you get for underwater. This is the worst of the 3 examples, but at least even then, people want to farm these things. They want to keep them. No one kills turtles because they know that it's bad, and that's like a good environmental lesson, but at the same time, it gives you this item which some people will find worthwhile. I mean, again, especially when you're going exploring underwater, having that extra water breathing time is really nice, and as a result, people actually want that helmet, so they want the turtles, and all of the other turtles' behaviors makes them kind of interesting and different. They don't breathe the same way as any other mob. They go off to their home beach to do it. It's wacky, and it's weird, and it's hard for me to get used to because it's so different, but it is a fun way of adding a new mechanic to Minecraft. Now let's compare those mobs to the polar bear, to the panda bear, and to the llama. I mean, the llama theoretically has a storage use, but it's just so much worse than shulker boxes and donkeys. Like, it's out-teched by the rest of the game. The panda bear and the polar bear probably could be combined into one mob, and then you give it a third variant, and there could be some fun in that, but right now it's just like, oh yeah, they exist in places and they add to ambiance without doing too much else. At least I guess the panda you can get in it's golden brown kind of color. Basically what I'm trying to say right here is they're not so useful by comparison. So if we ignore the fact that those 3 bad passive mobs are all from the last 6 updates, and we look back and instead just say, what can we learn from the good ones versus what can we learn from the bad, I think the key lesson is you need to give it something worthwhile, some unique item that doesn't come from elsewhere, that doesn't intrude on the design space of another enchantment perhaps, that doesn't intrude in the design space of another potion. Have something unique from that mob that you will need to find that mob to get. That is useful. Making the mob cute enough to want to keep as a pet is a nice side bonus, but horses aren't cute. I don't think most people agree, but they have enough utility that people don't care about that. That's the very secondary function. So obviously having different variants is going to be nice, but given that the 4 different variants of the panda, plus the golden version, so arguably 8 variants of a panda is not enough, despite the fact that the rabbit 6 different variants, or the horses 7 colors that come in 3 different pattern types is enough. It tells us that, those things are secondary to having some real utility. That utility can be using it itself. I mean, there's always the idea of like, what if we could ride goats? But they're probably going to have the same environmental concerns there, so it can't be a utility mob by itself, but maybe keeping it around could do something for you. I mean, if you look in real life, again, if you want to ignore the killing them versions, there could be a way to milk the goat. You'd get some goat milk, and it could just be like regular milk, but it comes from a goat, or it could ideally be something much better. Maybe it gives you, kind of like the golden apple, it gives you an extra heart, and that way there's a renewable source of having the, like a really easy source, for early game players too, to get a little bit of extra health. Maybe it even gives you only half a heart absorption, but some real utility to keep this around you and, keep it in your base or somewhere near you, so you want to keep the goats nearby, would be kind of great. That's a utility function. In real life, it's a known thing. Whether how accurately it is, but goats will eat a lot of grass, and it's a great way to get rid of vegetation on the land. What if something that currently we use water buckets for? What if there was a way to just bring a goat down from the mountain to a plains, and he could eat all of the grass? What if he could even do a little bit of flattening and eat some of the dirt as well? I don't know if goats are meant to eat dirt, but the point is having a real way to help with building, for instance, a building helper like animal, even if it's a niche use, at least it is some real endgame use. But I think the most important thing, to go back to the goat horn, is the goat horn needs to be something that players want, and especially want more than once. Right now, even if you could argue you really want that goat horn, it's going to be for one specific niche use. So how do we make the goat horn something so worthwhile people will come to the mountain biome and specifically seek out goats and their horns, specifically seek for them to be dropped naturally. Again, no hunting allowed. And I think that, giving it the noise that it has right now, it's a fun first use, but it needs at least another use, at least a secondary use, or even, maybe this current use should be the secondary use, because I think an incredibly useful thing you could do with it is make a, some form of goat potion. You put the goat horn on a potion, and it gives you the potion of knockback resistance, because, clearly we're starting to use that as an effect in Minecraft, given how netherite armor exists. What if we could have a potion like that? Except again, since we don't want to limit design space and do something that's the same as something that already exists, what if it's a brand new effect? I mean, goats do two things. They jump real high, and they obviously do their kind of ramming effect. So obviously, jumping, that's a rabbit, as we already mentioned. But what if you could use it as a knocking effect? What if, when mobs attacked you, they were knocked back in exchange? Right now we have thorns, which damages mobs when they damage you, but what if instead it was an exchange of knockback? What if when you were sprinting, you could actively knock things back? And so, for instance, instead of having to sprint and attack your friend, you could just sprint right into them, and you do a serious knockback effect, albeit one that didn't have damage, because I mean, goats aren't that powerful. And that way now there's some more depth to the combat system as well, and people are wanting to get goats in their horns so they can make these potions, which they might need for the combat. Boom, there's another idea. I think there's a limitless amount of inspiration you can get from the real life goats and turning them into Minecraft, but I think it's important there are some exclusive benefits to these goats, either in their behavior and the utility they offer the player, or in the items that we get. You can't just say, oh, it's a cute mob that exists and you can probably make it a pet, because that's a real thing I've seen. If I ever told you about my ex-girlfriend who had a pet goat, that it's a weird thing. They look creepy. They give you the weird eyes, and I don't like it. But anyway, that's a real use for them, sure, but it's not a good enough use. In Minecraft, things need to have utility, or they need to have a real benefit from the items, because otherwise they drop by the wayside and they become one of those mobs where you go, oh yeah, do you remember that exists? Like the bat or anything else, for instance. And that's why we need the goat horn to be an actual item used somewhere in the game for some real purpose. It can't be shoehorned in there somewhere, if you forgive my pun, like how the phantom membrane, they just took an existing use and made it goat horns. No, I don't think that's going to make people happy. It's got to be some genuine new use for the goat horn, because without it, it's just a mob that exists. And maybe you could argue, well, we voted for it, so therefore they don't have to make it worthwhile. No, I don't think just because a feature is voted for, it gets to be worthless. Maybe it's a big sign to teach us how voting is is not worthwhile and how we shouldn't do it. But I don't think that is the message Mojang wants to send. I think that it should be a real worthwhile mob. And I think, again, ideally, you do all of these things, all of the above. You make goats useful in some way. You give the horns some use in the potion system, or in, some niche Minecraft place. Some crafting recipes or something. I think having them be like cute little adorable pets, and like coming in different variants maybe that you can breed together. Because actually, while I was recording this, my girlfriend came over and was like, oh yeah, I had goats as a pet too. And then I looked into the goats as pets Wikipedia article. Let me tell you, this is a real thing. Look at this goat on someone's shoulder. Isn't this adorable? It totally is adorable. You want a goat as a pet now, don't you? But it's not good enough to just want a mob as a pet. You need to have something beyond that. And that's the message I'm sending with today's video. We need to give the goats some use. I'm not here to say that I really just want one solution. I really want goat milk, because for some reason I don't think cow milk is good enough. I'm not here to say, the benefits of goat milk. I've never even tried it. It sounds kind of gross. I'm not here to say the benefits of goat horn. I didn't even know that was a thing people traded in the real world. But what I do think is important, about this goat, is that we don't make it just another useless mob. Please, Mojang, if anyone at the company watches this video, all I urge from you, if there is just one message, is please take a second look at the goat. Please tell me that there are many plans, not even just one plan, to make this more worthwhile, because right now it's a mountain panda that you can blow into to make the funny villager horn sound, and I just don't think that's a good enough purpose. But I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments down below. Again, I think it's useful if these videos ever do get someone, for them to be able to read your comments and see what your ideas are. So please look in the comments, type an idea if you have something you'd like to see the goat do, and upvote the ideas you think are actually good and fit into Minecraft. That second one's really key. Don't be like, I think goats should have guns on their backs, and someone's going to type that now, aren't they, actually? Damn it. But like, don't say stuff like that. Say hopefully useful things, and we can make the world a better place, or at least a goatier place. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and have a goat day.